Have you ever been confused why God uses the name Jacob and Israel interchangeably? It's most plain in places like Isaiah where it says, "Remember these things, Jacob, and Israel, for you are my servant." It can be pretty confusing because we expect with God changing Jacob's name to Israel that he would just forever call him Israel. But it's actually a really easy explanation. It boils down to the actual meaning of Jacob's name. And before I explain that, it's essential to understand that a lot of this confusion comes from how we do names in the West. The way in which we typically name our children has more to do with heritage than the meaning of the actual name. You ask any random person, you go, "Well, where did you get that name?" And it's like, "Well, my grandmother or my grandfather was named that." Or my parents just thought it was a pretty name. In scripture, though, that's not how names works. Names are assigned almost prophetically. So in the case of Jacob, his name means heel holder or supplanter, prophetically speaking to the fact that he would replace or supplant his brother as the one who would inherit the promise from Abraham and Isaac. But if you know anything about Jacob's story, the way in which he receives that inheritance is through deception. And even when he fled Esau to go work for Laban, who, to be quite honest, wasn't the greatest employer, he achieved wealth and got stuff from Laban by borderline dishonest and deceptive means. So Jacob is not only known as the one who supplants or replaces Esau, but also the one who receives and achieves things by dishonest means, which is why often he's referred to as Jacob the deceiver. It's not until Jacob goes to face Esau that he ends up wrestling with God, and God renames him Yisrael. The name means God prevails, but also sounds like Sarah-el, which means to contend with God. So ultimately, what God is doing with Jacob here is he's saying, you are no longer going to achieve and accrue things by your own strength, by deception, by craftiness. You and your household are going to be known as a people who contend, who wrestle with God, and it is God who prevails. It is God who provides. And this is the dichotomy that you see when God, through the prophets, uses Jacob and Israel interchangeably. So, for example, Isaiah 2, house of Jacob, we already know that God is referring to Israel as a people that are not contending with him, that are not wrestling with him, but rather trying to achieve things through their own craftiness, through their own might. House of Jacob, come and let's walk in the Lord's light, for you have abandoned your people, the house of Jacob, because they are full of divination from the east and of fortune telling from the Philistines. They are in league with foreigners. The idea being here that the nation of Israel is trying to get the things of God, the promises of God, in a way that God has not prescribed. This is a recurring theme that you see throughout the prophets, especially in like Hosea, where Hosea says, you think that the wine and the grain is something that you have gotten, but is actually something that is provided